Hear from Tony Easton today. He's working from the Presentation Mastery Manual, presenting and researching and presenting a topic. He is giving a 5 to 7 minute speech. The purpose of this speech, which is called Eddie and the Seagulls and his Seagulls, it's the story of an unusual ceremony performed by an unusual character. Eddie and his Seagulls. Tony Easton.
Madam Toastmaster, if you were born some time ago and lived beside or near a pier, you might have seen Eddie. If you did, you might have noticed an elderly gent with a stooped back and hairy arms trudging slowly along your pier at dusk every Friday with a pail of shrimp in his left hand. It happened every Friday evening as the sun started to dip below the horizon. Old Ed would stroll his favorite pier all the way to the end where he seemed to have the beach to himself, apart from a couple of late joggers. He was alone with his bucket of shrimp. It was but minutes before, at first a brace, then half a dozen, then a score of seagulls arrived squawking at him as if they knew the play was about to start again. They were soon joined by many more, an armada of seagulls, skirting old Eddie, a brave few standing on his shoulders or flapping their wings in his face. Ed stands stiffly, throwing shrimp to the waiting seagulls until his bucket is empty. If you were on that pier on any Friday and brave enough to get close to old Eddie, you might just have heard him mutter, "Thank you, thank you," as he launched each shrimp into the air. If you were sitting on a deck chair with or without a fishing rod in your hands, you might have observed this strange duck tossing dozens of shrimps into the air and thought, "Weird old geezer." If you were a habitual fisherman, you might have encountered him many times. You might have wondered if you could hear him, why he was thanking seagulls. They are, after all, guzzlers, fast food aficionados, not much caring what they bite. They're not delicate birds. Indeed, they're tough like the old cod you're feeding them. They can fly for miles and miles out to sea, diving to catch small fish. They don't have bright, interesting colors. They're an army of foot soldiers patrolling the seas. Most of us would observe old Eddie and shrug him off as a strange old guy who maybe lost his marbles. But we would be wrong. Eddie died after 83 years of more than just a full life. Eddie Rickenbacker was a world-class race driver in his early years. He was a World War ace fighter pilot with the 94th Aero Squadron. Ring any local bells? In the 1930s, he was the first CEO of Eastern Airlines, at that time one of the big four. When World War II came around, Eddie was captaining a crew of 7 when his plane went down in the Pacific. Luckily, he was able to escape the downed aircraft with every crew member. They all climbed aboard a life raft safely with provisions for a few days. Captain Eddie and his crew floated for days on the ocean, not knowing if or when help might arrive. After 8 days, they ran out of food and with no land or assistance in sight, drifted listlessly. They fought the sun, the waves, the sharks that were lingering around. Most of all, they fought hunger. Needing a miracle, they prayed. Old Eddie tried to nap one day, pulling his military cap down over his nose. Suddenly, he felt something land on his cap. He sat perfectly still, wondering what it was. With a flash of his hairy arm, he reached above his head and grabbed the leg of a seagull. Carefully pulled the struggling bird down and wrung its neck. The bird provided he and his men a tiny amount of protein. The innards were hung from fishing line and dipped into the water. They caught fish and used parts of the fish as bait for more fish. Rescue didn't arrive until 24 days had passed. Eddie Rickenbacker lived another 30 years until his demise in 1973, aged 83. But he never forgot the sacrifice. made by that first seagull. Almost every Friday, he strode to the end of the pier and threw shrimp, whispering only to the seagulls, "Thank you, thank you." So if you should spy an old codger seemingly wandering, possibly a tad aimlessly, spare a glance and see if he isn't following some special ritual activity. Draw closer and listen if he's whispering something. Some old geezers still have a twinkle in their eye, maybe even a story to tell. Madam Toastmaster.